Hey everybody, if you are looking for a game call that is elk, turkey, deer, predator calls, waterfowl calls, we highly recommend PhillipsGameCalls.com. Professional grade game calls made for every hunter.
Welcome back to the Ridgeline Hunting Podcast, brought to you by Phelps Game Calls, with your hosts, David Crane and David Sandana. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the last episode, talking turkey. You know, we have a lot of episodes talking turkey. And today, we're going to have one more for the year. That's it for the season.
Yep. Well, unless we are
Successful.
blasting those gobblers in the face.
Last weekend, Dave went out, took a friend and someone that he had reunited with on a weekend turkey hunt, back to the spot we normally go. And we had, I couldn't make it. We had something going on family-wise. And I was kind of upset about that. I told him when he was on the way, because he was calling me, I was like, man, you guys are going to be limited out by 10 a.m. You both are going to have birds on the ground. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, well, that didn't happen.
The mojo, I don't know if it was like who knows? I wasn't there. But
we were high spirits going over, I took an old friend of mine that I knew back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And we really haven't talked since then. It's maybe even like 2002. And we ran into each other at the Sportsman Show. We had a booth there. We were, promoting the YouTube channel and the podcast. And he didn't realize that it was me doing the podcast, and he was actually a listener.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was, kind of surreal. He didn't really realize that that was me, because he was just listening to it on the podcast. He never really watched it on YouTube, so he didn't really connect the name with the face. But yeah, at the Sportsman Show, we started talking, and we probably talked for like 30 minutes, just catching up and everything. And he was talking to me since that day. And come to find out, he had never turkey hunted before. And, listening to the podcasts, he was like, man, it sounds like a lot of fun. I've never done it. I don't know anybody that turkey hunts. And I was like, okay, just kind of picking his brain of like what's going on. And it was probably about a month or so ago, month and a half ago. I was like, hey, man, I'll take you out. I was like, the turkey season's super long. Let's go have fun. And so we landed on, this past weekend for an extended weekend. We took a Friday off work and had Saturday. And so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we made it out there on Thursday night, late 30, set up camp, and just we're ready to start hunting on Friday.
Friday morning, I was at work, and I was like, I haven't got any messages yet. It was probably like 9:30. So I was starting to wonder about him. So I messaged him. I was like, what's going on? He goes, not on fire.
Yeah, not what we thought it was going to be. It was not on fire. The weather was in and out of being like super sunny and then rain. Super sunny and rain. Friday, we kind of dodged the bullet. Friday was a pretty nice day, and it was really our only day of like opportunity. But it was an opportunity like you would think on a turkey hunt. Number one, Eric, the gentleman that I took, watched way too many turkey videos.
he was trying to gear up,
Yeah.
That's what happened.
But he was watching the wrong ones.
Oh, okay.
So he's watching the ones that are over in like Kansas and Tennessee and all these other things where they're like flat meadows and you're like just chilling.
Yeah, that's kind of the dream. So in his mind, he thought, we're going to go somewhere, sit on a spread, couple decoys, and wait for them to come in and watch them come across the field. And, do all that fun stuff.
Yeah, but I told him that we were hunting mountain turkeys, and he didn't really understand the concept of that. But he found out really fast.
Yeah.
Like,
did you take him up the hill?
Yeah, that was.
Which side?
You know where we parked?
Oh, up the steep one? Up
Yep.
the long, steep sucker?
Yeah, I took him. I needed to know who I was hunting with. Like, if we're going to go hunting, you kind of need to know, because he didn't know my style of hunting either. Yeah. And I needed to know if he was going to be able to beat feet.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's kind of how our turkey hunt is. Like, we get to this ridge, and we're going back and forth trying to get these birds to go, and if we have to dive in, we dive in. Mm-hmm. So I took him up the steepest crap that we could right off the get-go.
So is he ever going to turkey hunt again after that?
Oh, yeah, he's been hitting me up. He's like, it's in my blood now, man. We got to go. We got to go.
I can still feel my vein in my neck bulging out of my face, and the veins in my eyes are pulsating.
So we did get birds going, but then they would just shut off. So you would get them started, just regular hen clucks, and all of a sudden they would respond back, and they would do it like 2 or 3 times, and then it was like dead all day. Mm-hmm. So then I was like, well, this is kind of what happened when you and I were out there. I was like, the best thing we could do is try to spot and stalk and drop in on one to see what we could do. So it was more of like a spook and shoot, which doesn't work on turkeys. Which doesn't work on turkeys, just because.
You should make a T-shirt that says that on there. Spook and shoot.
I'm working on one that says that's cold turkey.
Yeah, cold turkey one.
Yeah, I got Mikey P working on that one. So you might see a shirt come out that's the cold turkey shirt. So now we got to do the spook and shoot. But that didn't work. And basically I say that because we were like walking very slow, trying to pay attention to everything that's moving, So like every step we're just, and birds are very small. So their eyeballs are just barely over the brush. And what we're looking at is not what they're looking at. So, like, if you really wanted to do it, you need to be on all fours or something like that, crawling around, which I'm not doing that. So they would basically catch our legs moving and then run.
Oh, dang.
And so we spooked a lot of turkeys around, but they were all just quiet, man. So, like, one time we sat down for, like, 3 hours. Maybe 4 hours. Just had everything all set up, just calling, and, very boring for me. Like, I'm not good at sitting still, so that was not good for me. And then, Eric being a brand new turkey hunter, he didn't know what to expect anyways, and he was like, so how long do we want to sit here, blah, blah, blah. I was like, well, I've pretty much tried everything that I know, and it's not working. I was like, can you think of anything? And he was like, nope. So we would basically just sit there and just try to call birds in, because you never know if a tom's going to come in silent, right? So, but that didn't work. And then, so that was pretty much all of Friday, except for we did come around on some turkeys, and I almost got a shot on a tom, because he was kind of lingering back, because he was just kind of like really just scoping out what I was doing. And I saw a couple of hens. So I got my shotgun ready, and I was like, he was way too far back. So I was like, come on. And he was just like, creeping all slow, and I was like, whatever. So I see the tom, and I get ready to shoot, and it's just like in this nastiness, and I was like, I'm not gonna take that shot. Mm-hmm. So the tom ended up scurrying around, and Eric was able to see it, and I was like, that's what they look like. Yeah. You see how big the head, is all red from basically from the start of the neck up to its head. Mm-hmm. So then he was able to acclimate to what a tom looks like, because we were seeing hens all over the place. So I was like, okay, well, that's a hen. See how the feathers are like this, and the head's all gray. They're super small birds compared to a tom, because then we're able to scale the actual size of a tom compared to a hen. So that was really exciting for him, because he's learning stuff almost step by step by step.
Yeah, so this last week, someone had posted a video of a strutting hen. Have you ever seen that?
Nope.
So hens can strut just like a tom. They fluff up their tail feathers. They get their freaking body all puffed up. Now, they don't have a beard, right? And their heads don't turn red. But they fluff up just like a tom would. And I was like, well, shit, I probably shot that thing.
Yeah, I never saw that before.
Why would he be looking for a beard?
That's a tom.
Yeah, it's like a ton. Oh, shit.
Yeah, I've never seen that. That's actually pretty cool.
I didn't even know it till last week that they would do that.
Mm. Yeah, I've never seen that.
Now, what in the world would cause them to do something like that? It's just weird, So And it may have been a tom without a beard, or who knows what the guy. But it looked like a hen head. It didn't have a beard. You couldn't see its feet. He's like, this is the first time I've ever seen a strutting hen. Because it walked in, it puffed up, and so beware of that too. If you ever see, look for additional identifying things too. Like, in Washington State, it has to have a beard.
Yep.
And it has to have or spurs. So those are the two main things.
No, I don't think it has to have spurs at all.
It has to have visible spurs or a beard.
Oh, or a beard.
Yeah, or a beard.
Oh, okay. I just go after if it's got a beard. Pretty much. You can see those things from a long ways away.
Let me see your feet, son.
Yeah, it's very identifiable. I mean,
yeah.
It looks like a rope just hanging out of its chest, really. It's like little dangly, like pretty thick.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're shooting. But I know some jakes that had some big old ropes, but it was a jake. It had like the 3 feathers that are taller in the back,
Yeah, a juvenile one.
Yeah. But if it's got a beard, it's legal, but, whatever.
They do have some weird rules. They have like juvenile only seasons in some places.
Yeah, I've also seen in the late fall season, some of them it's like hen only, which is weird.
I'm not sure why. Like maybe once they're done having their babies for the year, they're just like, yeah, whatever. They don't need their mama.
I don't know the rules behind that or why that's even an option. I don't know.
And I had that conversation with someone the other day where they were asking about hens, and I was like, yeah, actually, you can hunt hens, but I said, I don't know why someone would want to. The toms, they're much larger. I guess if you didn't get one and you absolutely had to have a wild turkey, maybe the hen is like the cordon bleu of turkeys. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that was Friday. Saturday, we got a tom going right next to camp, but he shut down really quick because it sounded like wolves were running on the opposite, like across the main road up against that farm up on the hill.
Did you guys hear any wolves howling?
Yeah.
You heard them howling?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
As they were going, and this was like in the middle of the day.
Oh, dang.
Because we thought it was just the farm dogs, but I could hear the farm dogs. They weren't moving. These other dogs were running across the hillside. You couldn't see them, but you could hear them, and they're like, like a bark with a howl in it, and with it, and they were just going across the hillside. Like you could hear the noise, like very faint. Then it started getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder, and then started fainting off again.
And I was like, hill,
holy smokes, man! And they were cruising, they went by fast.
Yeah, that's a big hill. That hill. It's probably 400 or 500 yards long on that slope where we can see it from the one end of the farm to where we're at, and it keeps on going.
Yeah,
but the visible section is it's probably way more than 500 yards. I think too long. Maybe up to half a mile. I don't know. It's long. It's as long as you can see from left to right. But when you look at a farm field, you're like, okay, here's a big farm field, but it takes you like a minute to drive at 25 miles an hour down the one stretch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a pretty big. That's a pretty big hill, and that hill coincidentally also had a fire in it. The year before, I think I went the first time, or was it with you the first time when that farmer told us about the fire?
That might have been with you and Kirk.
So this hill, they had a bunch of fires over here, and I'm not sure what mountain range that is, Okanagan or something, or.
I know it's in the Okanagan, but I'm not sure if it's like I'm not sure what the mountains are called.
Well, when they had all those fires, the farmer, he's funny. He's old. He's probably like, he might be dead now, but he was like in his 80s. We were chit chatting with him. He's like, "Oh yeah, they had that fire come down the road, and those stupid guys, they just had the trucks parked right on the freeway, like they were just waiting for it to come down the hill. And as soon as it got there, it just blew over the top of their heads, hit this hill, and in like 1 minute, it burned that whole hillside, like as far as you can see." He's like, "That was the scariest thing I've seen in my entire life."
Dang, that would be intense.
And he's like, that whole hill was on fire in 1 minute. He's like, it just blew, gone. And the firefighters were just on the road, like. He's like, I don't know if they thought they're going to stop it there or what the heck was going on, but they're probably just calling in like, hey, it's moving on past here. But to see that hill now, there's still a lot of burn evidence, but it is a lot greener than it used to be. It was
so the whole hillside is green. It just looks like toothpicks are coming out of the hillside.
Yeah, the trees don't really have much on them.
Yeah, the trees are toast.
Yeah.
But, the ground itself is just lush, green, beautiful, deer country for sure.
Oh, we've seen so many deer. Because compared to any years in the past, this year,
Oh my!
I mean, just I can't even count how many we saw.
So on the past 2 weekends that I went, because I went back to back, I probably saw more deer than I did toms until we were leaving. So we saw them all over the farms.
Yeah, they were down there.
So when we were leaving, this is when I was really starting to like showing Eric like the identifying things of like all the toms, because we didn't see one come in, so there wasn't one puffed up, and I was trying to explain to him it's like a almost like a peacock, you know? So like they fan out, which I got to show them that, and then they got their little toothpick legs underneath there when they're like trying to like they're like dancing around, but you could barely see their little legs, you know, underneath their I call like their skirt pretty much, or their dress, because when they puff up, that you can barely see their feet. Mm-hmm. And so we got to see that. So he was just like, man, that is really cool. And I was like, dude, you have no idea, man. Like they come in like that. And I was like, they can come in sprinting, and then all of a sudden they just kind of stop, and then just bloop, and then they puff up, and then they do like this thing with their wings and their chest, and they like boom, and it makes this weird crazy noise. And he was just like, dude, I can't wait, that's gonna be so awesome. And so what was that? Oh, that was my phone. He was super excited. So even when we were leaving, so we actually had to cut the hunt short. We came back Saturday night because right around 1:00, it was just a straight up storm. So it was hail and rain and wind, and it whips over there. I mean, you've been there when it's windy, man.
Yeah.
It was nasty. So, you know, I was like, in my experience, I'm not going to try to say that we need to leave, but we're probably not going to see any birds.
That probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, so he was like, man. He was like, you know what? I was thinking the same thing. I just didn't want to say anything. And I was like, well,
I learned my lesson many years ago about saying something.
I was like, well, hey, man, do you want to go? Or you know, we can see what happens. You never know what's going to happen, because all it takes is like that clear moment, and then they could just be on fire. Yeah. But he was like, what are we going to do? Just wait in the tent until it like clear? Because I mean, it was coming down like a waterfall. There, you weren't doing nothing.
Yeah, like the night we had.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So it was doing that during the nighttime too. So like we were getting up early. Like we were getting up super early because I wanted to be in the birds like early, because like, you know, our weekend before the birds were going off, we were getting ready, and then we would go out and it was almost like silent. So I was like, well, let's get up early while we're eating breakfast and having our coffee. Once we hear that first gobble, let's go. So that's what we were doing. Yeah. So the first 2 days we were up super early. And one of the mornings I was just like, oh, crap. It was raining. I was like, dang it. You know, first-time hunter, you want them to experience, like, you know, some of the good moments, you know. You don't just want to drag them through the mud. Well, I kind of did that at the start, just to kind of see, like, you know, if he can hang. You know, we're hiking around quite a bit.
It is a little different, hunting versus hiking. You know, because I have a friend that always asks me to go on hikes and stuff, and I'm like, nah, I'm not really into the hiking. He's like, why not? You don't like the outdoors? I'm like, no, I hike a lot, and I go off trail, and I don't see the challenge of on trail. I mean, there's steep hills you can walk up and stuff, and have your pack and hike, and but when I go to a destination, it's like, oh, this is gonna be a cool hike, and I see like the roots are all shiny from people's shoes, and the path is all wide, and I don't get really excited about it, because like the destination to me is like a viewpoint, but I see so many views throughout the year that it doesn't seem like a thing. You know what I mean? Like,
because when you're hunting, you don't really know who's like step foot in that spot and is looking at what you're looking at. Like when you go on a hike, hundreds of people have been on up and down this trail almost daily, and they're looking at the same exact thing that someone else has already looked at 100 million times.
There's a spot we went to that spray park a long time ago. That was just after the last recession, like probably 2011 or 12, when we went up there to spray park.
Oh, yeah.
And I couldn't even keep soap on my back. My back was so trashed from working that I couldn't even.
It was like your back and your shoulders. And
dude, it was brutal.
Man, yeah.
We were working some incredible shifts, but that was 10 years ago, and I couldn't hold my daughter on my shoulders, like, or on my pack, for very far without just being like wasted.
We were trading kids.
I was like, give me a little Malachi. He was like little, he's like this big, But now I can like put my young daughter on my shoulders, and she's 10, and I can walk around there and go upstairs, and it's like my back is way better than it was back then. It just because I put so many hours in working from like 7 a.m. till 5 the next morning, because we had to do that in order to make money. Like we had to do those things, and I never thought about what it was doing to me until after, and I started getting better, and I was like, it's weird. It's like my back doesn't hurt as much. Like I can, carry stuff longer, like kids and stuff. So yes, it's funny to see those differences. But after that hike, we went to Spray Park. I looked and I was like, yeah, it's a waterfall. But I've seen a lot of waterfalls, like down in Skamania County. Some really beautiful stuff where we're just hiking elk hunting, and there all of a sudden you come up on this waterfall, and you're like, dude, this is a pimpin' ass waterfall.
Yeah.
There's one spot. I mean, it would be a good spot for a professional photo shoot, just because the way the waterfall comes off, it's only like 7 or 8 feet high, but it's where the river just dumps over this big rock, and it's a nice cool pool, and there's like a big boulder in the front. And I was like, Billy, Chris, get over there, sit on that rock. And I put my little, camera up on the thing and put the timer, ran over there, and I got a picture of all three of us like staring in different directions. So those are the hikes that I enjoy,
Yeah.
And for the same reason you explained, it's like the newness of it, not the sense of exploration, kind of like that pioneering spirit, feeling like you've accomplished something, not just like a physical challenge, but like I found this place and there's no trails leading here. And I'm not sure if I'll find it again, but I'm going to put it on my map just in case.
Yeah.
And I may never want to come back here depending on where it's at, but at least I get to see it now,
Yeah. And then document it, Either put it on your whatever map thing you got, like that's a pinpoint. Maybe I'll come back here, maybe I won't. But it's pinned, and then photo.
I have pinpoint spots where I'm like, when I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a spot I pinpointed, so I never head that way again. Like,
I actually put notes in, like, do not come back here.
Yeah.
Like, this is not good. Like, there's a lot of those where we used to go spring bear hunting because, like, I got cliffed out over there and got really hurt, and I was like, oh, don't do that. Like, do not come back to this spot.
Yeah, that can be rough getting cliffed out, man. Freaking all that effort you're going out.
Oh, dude, it was bad. And I was hunting by myself. It was bad.
Well, that area you go to there's a lot of cliffs up there anyway. Those mountain goats up there. I was hunting down in what's the name of that unit? Lewis River. I was hunting in the Lewis River, and we were up on this peak, and I looked over it was miles and miles, but I saw this hillside with like 4 white dots on it, and like they were dots. Like you couldn't tell what they were. But as I'm watching the dots, I started like tweaking my eyes a little bit. I was like, are they moving? Like those dots are moving. And we're elk hunting, and I don't even know if people knew those goats were there because they weren't like on the goat rocks or any place you would think there would be goats. And so we went back to camp that night, and I told, this is a funny story, man. I should go back a little bit on this, but my buddy Dave, he took us hunting there the first time, and we were hunting with him. We would never hear an elk bugle. So me and my buddy Billy, we would go off on our own. He would do something else. He'd go another way, and we were just exploring this other section. And I'll never forget this little cow call we had. It was like a bell. It almost looked like a whistle. And I blew that cow call, and it just sounded like a screech. Yeah. And this bull come unglued. And he was down in this steep ravine. I mean, I wasn't going down there. So I could see where he was at, like, and it was like so straight up and down. I was like, there's no way of getting, I mean, it's probably 300 or 400 yards, almost vertical. And so we went back to camp. We're like, Dave, we heard an elk bugle. He's like, bullshit, man. You guys always come up with this shit, trying to tell me you heard an elk bugle. I was like, I'm telling you, man, there's a bugle. And he's like, all right, if there's a bugle, then we're going out there first thing in the morning, and we're going to go after it. It's like, okay, fine. We'll put our stuff together, got ready, got up super early, got back down there. We're like, yeah, man, he was right down here. He's like, okay, so what'd you do? I pulled out my little bell. I was like, yeah, and that sucker goes, brrr. He goes, that's our bull. He fucking jumped off that cliff, dude. I was like, oh, shit.
Like, here we go. Time to clock in.
He went down there, dude. We were right behind him. We started going down this trail, and we had all like gotten to the very bottom of this shit. And it was like, there was like a horse trail down there. So there's like a big, long side hill horse trail. And there's a lot of horse trails up there. And so we sat down on this horse trail, literally had my butt was on the trail. My feet were hanging off the side of the trail, kind of out in front of me a little bit. So I didn't have like good balance or anything. But Dave sitting next to me, Billy's over here, had my bow between my legs like this. And Dave goes, I'm going to give a little call. So he just gives a little cow call. Meow. And all of a sudden he goes, oh. And this bull was walking into us, like head down, completely silent, dude, just like coming under the branches and shit. and I had an arrow knocked, and he comes in and it 25 feet maybe. I mean, like looking at us at for like a frontal quarter shot, not a good shot. His shoulder. I mean, people have probably take that shot 100 times, you know, and probably 90 of them they lose, right? If it was straight on, people take that shot. It's a good shot. Like a lot of people, they swear,
that's how I shot,
you know, right through the chest.
I shot my cow.
Punch them all the time. Quartering this way, maybe almost 45 degrees frontal. Not a very good shot. I was like, get ready to draw. Had my bow, and I wasn't thinking about it, but it turned sideways and its head went behind a tree. But when I first saw it ducking under those trees, I was like, 35 yards. And he got close, and he was just broadside close. I mean, I don't even know how it works. Like, I'm sitting there wondering, do I still know how to shoot a bow? And back then, I was shooting, like, all the time. I was shooting shit tons of time. I mean, a lot, everything. I mean, I feel like if I pulled my bow back and I saw a spot.
Well, I mean, there's trophies and stuff tucked away somewhere in here.
The wall.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them up there.
They're just, you know, club shoot stuff, but I would shoot 3Ds religiously. And,
yeah. Well, I mean, that makes you a better archer, really. Those 3Ds are essential when you're an archery shooter.
But I would shoot, dude. And it was like before I was married, before I had kids. This is all that time. I had no obligation. And I would do 2-3 hours a day of shooting every single day. Anyhow, I started drawing my bow back, and my buddy Dave, after everything went down, he's like, when I saw you pulling that string, man, I knew that was our bull. He's like, I had vision in my head. We had that sucker down. We were packing it up, heavy packs, man. We were going, you know. So drawing back, and I couldn't, because the way my legs were positioned, I couldn't get my body to fully open up to get the string fully back. So I think the way it worked was because I didn't have a trophy taker. There was no trophy taker. It was like TM Hunter double prong rest. The TM Hunter, it has a launch angle already on it. It's built in, so your fletches will hit it and it'll go down. It doesn't fall out.
Yeah, it's just like a metal bar.
2 of them like this, and so your strings, your fletching could hit it and it just goes down.
Yeah,
has a little spring on it. But it wasn't a drop away. It stayed in the way. It was
it's a stay in the way rest. That's funny.
Yeah. So you have your knock point, and as you draw back, your arrow angle changes, like from high to lower, right? But I couldn't get all the way back. I was pretty damn close. I thought I was all the way back because I couldn't draw anymore. I was like, I'm all the way as far as my body could go, but my arm was probably like halfway. I should have been, you know, way more open. Needless to say, when I let the arrow loosen, I probably turned pale white. I mean, I watched my arrow go 2 feet over its back.
Oh man!
From 25 feet, and a good bull, and I was like, oh, just everything fell out of me. I probably almost would have died. And Dave looks at me and goes, "What the hell happened?" I was like, I no idea what happened. I had my pin on that sucker, but it wasn't really a good shot because nothing worked out right. So that bull took off, and we went back up to the truck, man. We had to hike up that sucker. We got to the top, and it was like 95 degrees out outside. Oh, man. So to get to that spot, we hiked across this massive huckleberry field. It was a massive huckleberry field. It was like a saddle ridge just full of huckleberries, and that's where we had encountered that first bull. I got back to the truck, dude. I bust out my little camcorder, my high 8. Freaking made a little video. It's all, I still got it somewhere. Little cassette tape about that big. Dude, that was brutal.
We watched that before. Yeah, we watched it before. Yep. Super good.
Oh my God. That was brutal. Yeah, so that was gnarly. I don't know how we got off on this subject, but
hey man, we got to go on tangents every once in a while,
oh
right?
my God.
Well, anyways.
It was the mountain goats and getting cliffed out.
Yeah. Well, anyways, going back to turkey.
Oh, I'm not done.
Nothing happened.
I'm not done yet.
No turkeys went down, but Eric did learn a lot, and he wants to go again. So
yeah. Well, take him out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I plan on it. I only got one weekend left, though.
Let me finish this important thing.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Go ahead, and then we're going to switch gears.
Then we're going to go somewhere else. Okay, so getting cliffed out, I saw those mountain goats, and we had this bull experience, right? So, like, the next day, we heard another bull. Dave's wife showed up into camp, and so he's like, I'm going to go out with her. You guys go out this way, and we'll see what you guys see, report back at camp. So we go back to camp and we're like, hey, Dave, you're never going to guess what we saw. He's like, what did you see? Bigfoot? I was like, nope, not till 17 years later. No, we didn't see Bigfoot. We saw mountain goats. And he's like, bullshit, there's no mountain goats over here. I was like, dude, swear to God, we'll take you to the spot. And we heard an elk bugle. He's like, no, shit, now I know you're lying. So we took him back. We took him back to that spot. And they weren't there. I was like, Dave, they were right on that thing. And I said, oh, there's something over there. It's like a little white dot. He pulls up his binoculars. He's like, oh, shit, you shit me. He's like, I can't believe you guys found these goats out here in the middle of nowhere. Then we went back up there. That's where I got that bull. So, anyhow, yeah, we took him back.
That was all in that same hunt?
That was the second year. The second year. So the first year is when we went out, we started locating all these bulls and stuff. And it was pretty wild. That day, we located another bull. Him and Manya went after, and the second year we went back, and I knew like this is where I'd seen these elk. This is where I seen these. There's all these little noble trees up here, and there's like these little flat spot, and there's a hill and a ridge and a little valley and a creek and all this. Like I put all these little things.
Now this
together.
is all before like OnX and all that stuff. Like there was
no digital cataloging of your hunting.
Yeah.
I mean, there wasn't even an iPhone. I don't think. This might have been 2005. So iPhone didn't come out till like 7, 8, 9 or something like that.
Well, even then, I don't even think the Garmin's had those.
I had a Rhino, but it wasn't good. I mean,
I had a Rhino, and that thing was it
was like black and white pixelated.
Yeah,
you couldn't tell where your buddies were, like it said, but it was a good idea. It led to a lot of things. So the second year we went back there, I was like, we're going to go right to this spot. Opening day, I was like, we're going to this spot. We're going to go over here. We're going to call from here. We're going to go this way. We're going to call from here. And we had seen like 2 or 3 bears up there. So I was like, and then if we get to this corner, we'll go down this one trail. There's like a little horse trail. We can get on this little like road section, loops around through this forest. And then there's like a horse trail that comes over. And then it kind of loops to the right. And then down to the left, there's this meadow. And we seen a deer, a coyote, and a bear all within 100 yards of each other down at the bottom of that meadow.
Oh, crazy.
So I was like, we get there. We're going to look for bears. We'll do some bear, scouting because there's like all these scattered huckleberries inside these noble trees and stuff. But we didn't make it that far. We had the elk come in. So I shot that bull. That was 55 yards. He went down like 20 yards under this tree. Got him out. Next morning we went back there because now I'm going to go to bear hunt mode. But there was probably 15 or 20 elk with this herd. We went back there, and the biggest freaking bear had grabbed the rib cage and everything, pulled under a tree, because we went down to check, and it was like all under a tree. There was like a dead crow with feathers.
Was it buried and stuff on it? Did they bury it a little bit?
No, I don't think it tried burying it. It just kind of pushed it underneath a tree. Like it was tight under a tree. Like the boughs were all over it. Like you couldn't see it until you got like I knew it was like close. On it. Yeah, I knew it was close, and so, but we saw where it had drug it, and it was under the boughs, but there was like crow feathers all over. Probably like a raven got too close and he was like, fresh meat, grabbed it and just feathers everywhere. And on our hike back out, across the ridge is like 318 yards, dude. The biggest freaking bear just walking. And you could see him in the huckleberries very clear. And I was like, oh shit, I didn't. And Billy was like, you should bring my 308. You should bring my 308. And I was like, Nah, I'm not going to bring that thing because we're riding bikes. I was like, I don't want to bring a freaking rifle, heavy-ass gun. But I wished I had now.
Thinking back, that was probably not the best idea.
Yeah, I should have brought that gun. So for now on, I always will. If I kill something, I'll bring a rifle the next day.
Yeah.
Because there could be something on it,
That's awesome, man. That's an awesome story.
Dude, that's just the tip of the iceberg, man. That was a fun trip. Yeah, that was super fun.
Well, all right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're actually going to switch gears, and we're actually going to talk about some fishing.
Fishing? Heck
That's
yeah, man.
right, yeah, because fishing just started. Opening day was this last weekend. So actually, when you guys hear this, we're like going to be 2 weeks into the fishing season. But yeah, you ready for that? You ready for?
I'm always ready for some fishing, dude.
Yeah. All right, everybody, we'll be right back. All right, everybody, we are back from our little break, and now we're going to kind of switch gears. We're going to be really not talking about anything turkey, and we're going right into fishing.
Well, maybe. You never know if turkey's going to make a comeback.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, we talk about turkeys all the time, so it's always there.
Yeah. So fishing season opened up today. Sophia, she showed me a picture. She's like, "Dad, check this out." And it was 8 years ago. I took her and Micah fishing.
So Sophia is Dave's oldest daughter. They just cut the light off.
I always tell them.
No, this still looks good though. We're good.
That's why I had the extra light installed.
And Micah is our mutual friend's oldest son. So just to give a little.
Yeah. So I took them fishing, and they have this stringer, and they got like 10 trout on there, and they're both like little, and they're like. But he pulled her aside in school. And was like, "Hey, I want to show you this." She's like, "What is it?" And he's like, "This was in my thing 8 years ago today." So that was opening day 8 years ago. So as the week kind of, I don't know how it worked on the weekend thing, right? But it was opening day on a weekend. I took him out, and that was funny. I was like, what we should do? We should recreate this photo. We should have you, because Micah's like hella tall now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He's like 6 foot or something,
and my son's the oldest out of the three of them, and Micah's the tallest one. He's a giant, and his dad was pretty tall too, but he's a string bean, dude. He might be taller than old Wilbur.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna head out and recreate that photo with them now. Awesome. I was like,
dang, I had one come up with Devin and Sophia, and they were probably just fresh out of diapers.
Is it a Red Robin photo?
No, them fishing with fish in their hand.
Oh, okay. You have to show it to me.
Yeah, I'll have to try to find it because it came up as like a memory or something like that. So I'll have to try to find it. But yeah,
that's a funny thing about
because they were like maybe.
I think I remember.
Maybe Devin was 5 and Sophia was 4.
He had like a shaved head.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Karen. That. Yeah, Karen did him dirty.
What lake was that at? I think that was Tanwax Lake. Don't ever fish at Tanwax. It sucks.
I think
all those photos were taken at Tanwax, by the way.
It may have been because we were slaying them. Like it seemed like
back in the old days we used to slay them. Not anymore. There's no fish there anymore.
Well, there's just catfish in there now. So if you want to go fishing for some catfish, get stung by
Tanwax is a good lake. If you're gonna go fishing,
okay, never mind. There's no fish in that lake.
Not last year. There wasn't.
That's Tanwax in Oregon.
Yeah,
it's got to be some type of lake called that down there.
Dude, I spent so much time at that lake and others around there growing up. I guess not so well known fact, man. I missed 96 days of school in 9th grade fishing.
I don't know if anybody really knew that yet.
Nobody knew that. Yeah, I missed 96 days of school fishing, and it was like I grew up. Pretty much fishing. I mean, I never was into hunting until I was like a teenager. And it all evolved around my friends and their abilities to drive and our ability to want to do something. There was no...
Yeah, because it's like, oh, man, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Well, I got this tackle box here and some fishing poles. Like, let's go.
Actually, it was maybe a little before that is when the bug got planted, because at Kapowson Lake, they had a boat launch, Erickson's boat launch.
Yep.
And Erickson's boat launch, it was like $10 or $12. You rent a rowboat, wooden rowboat. You got a bucket and a sponge with your rental, because they all took on water. Like but it was cool because if they were dried out, they would have more water coming in. But as the wood soaked up water, it would get tighter and less water would come in the boat. It's kind of weird.
Makes sense, though.
So the old man's like, yeah, this one leaks a little bit, but here's a bucket, here's a sponge. You just bail it out of there, and if it'll eventually slow down, and you'll be fine. So here's your life jacket, just in case, boy. We were probably, I'm not going to get anybody in trouble, but we were teenagers. But my mom, she would pay $12, and because we had younger brother, and she had things going on, but me and my buddies wanted to go fishing. She didn't want to sit on the lake with us all day. So Erickson's had, like, I don't know what time it closed, but it was probably close to 8:30 or whatever at night in the summertime.
Yeah.
So we would get $12 and we would go rent the rowboat all day. We'd be on that lake just rowing and fishing. And we trolled rowing that boat. Like, we would go from one end of the lake to the other end of the lake to the other end of the lake to back. Maybe we need to do a zigzag. We would do a zigzag. If there was no fishing, we would start going across the lake this way. I mean, I rode hundreds of miles on that lake. Crazy amount of time. And that's probably where it all started. And then it just took off. It got worse and worse. And it really took off bad when my buddy got his driver's license and his uncle gave him a canoe. Dude, that was brutal on my education. Seriously hard, man. I can't believe I made it. It was questionable. Seriously.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, it is not funny.
It's funny for me. Probably funny for everybody watching and listening, because that's pretty funny.
I guarantee you, there might be somebody out there that missed that much school. I know one other person that missed that much school or more. This is my buddy I went fishing with all the time. There's some kid somewhere that's probably done that. But I did grow up, and I did things right. Graduated high school, did everything I need to do, and you mature. But I never lost the fishing twitch. There's one of those things where I would be tying up my lure, or I'd be putting new line on my fishing pole, and if the spool of line acted up and it made my rod twitch, I would set the hook in the living room. Oh shit! Here we go. Yeah. I'd set the hook. I think I did it to my brother a couple times when he was holding the spool, and he got too tight, and it just, and I set that sucker out of his hands in the living room. But yeah, I pretty much grew up fishing.
Same.
Yeah. Enjoy the heck out of it, man. And it's one of those things you can almost, literally anybody could do it.
Yeah, anybody can do it.
You can get to water and, tie a hook on a line with some split shots and maybe a worm and some marshmallows, and you have a chance catching fish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that goes for anybody. I started fishing when I was probably still in diapers. My grandfather would take me out fishing with him, and man, I don't even remember sleeping.
Yeah.
Like that.
No, you're excited about it.
Yeah. So and I was little. I was probably like 2 years old when I started fishing, and it was like well, they still make them now. The little kid fishing poles that had like the little push button the
Zebco, a little push button. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
got one right here.
That was my fishing pole when I was growing up, and my grandpa, we would go out there. Well, he's Big Daddy to me, so my Big Daddy.
This is in the South.
This is my grandfather from the South. Yeah.
But this took place in the South.
Here in Washington. Okay. Yeah. He moved here in like in the 70s or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he had been here he knew like all the lakes down here, down south.
Yeah.
But no, he grew up in Mississippi.
What's his name?
Philip.
Okay.
So that's Devin's middle name is Philip.
Okay.
It's also my uncle's. You met my uncle.
Your Uncle Phil, yeah.
Yeah, my Uncle Phil. So that's all that all ties together. So yeah, Devin is Philip as well. Because those two gentlemen raised me. Mm-hmm. So And my grandfather was my first introduction into the outdoors. So I didn't actually start hunting until I was 30, 29, either 29 or 30. But I've been fishing my whole life. And that's what we did. Like every weekend from opening day until it shut down, we were fishing every weekend. I was at my grandparents' house every weekend. And I remember he lived out in Spanaway, so Spanaway Lake was the closest one, and there was no swimming in that. There's no swimming now. If you're swimming in that,
can you
lake
swim there now still?
I don't think so,
dude. I got stories of that.
That's some gnarly lake. Now it is, but when I was a kid, it wasn't like that. There wasn't as much houses on the lake and all this other stuff, but we would catch catfish. So that was like his main thing, catching catfish. And I was just out there I wasn't catching shit, but I was, just out there just with my pole thinking that I'm doing stuff,
involved in the action.
Yeah. I would catch a trout every once in a while, but I was out there trying to catch catfish too, just because I wanted to be like Big Daddy. And I remember I was probably like 4 years old, probably 4. I don't think I was even like doing school or nothing yet. So I was probably right before school, so I was probably like 4. We went out to Spanaway Lake, and it was really early, and there was catfish floating everywhere.
Oh shit!
Floating, and he got super pissed, and he went over to like they had like this main hut where you could rent like
the boat rental,
and all that stuff. They would have like
snack shop and stuff.
Yep, and they would have like they had like a little fishing thing. You can get your fresh worms and all this stuff. And
those are some good times, man. I remember that.
Well, they don't have that stuff anymore, man. Like that's all shut down. But we went up to the hut deal, and it was probably like 5:30 in the morning. Like it's still dark out, and he was like, "Hey, what's going on here?" And the gentleman that was running the place, he knew my grandfather by his first name, so he was like, "Oh, Mr. Crane." Or he would call him Philip, depending on like the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, so he was like, he knew that my grandpa was pissed. So he was like, "Oh no, Mr. Crane, they're getting ready to start putting in swimming areas, and they don't want anybody getting stung by the catfish." So they killed them all. And that was it for Spanaway Lake. So we didn't go there no more.
So that swimming area, I had spent a lot of time there. When I grew up, out there in Spanaway, and
that's where I was.
We had our little apartment gang, and Spanaway was like, it was hood. It wasn't like, well, you don't want to be. I mean, in the '90s, Spanaway, even now, Spanaway is probably worse now than it was back then. It's
worse now. So I actually grew up in Lakewood, but I was in Lakewood or in Hilltop, like Tacoma, and on the weekends I was in Spanaway. Yeah.
So that was like country club for you then.
It was nice.
So we used to ride our bikes down to the lake, and we would have like $3, and we would.
Man, you're good.
We had a strategy, right? Our strategy was we're gonna
dating ourselves right now. We're gonna go $3. Like, dude, I'm good all day. $3.
Dude, seriously, $3. Here's the recipe. We would go down from our apartment complex where we were staying. We would hit Pacific Avenue. We would go left on Pacific Avenue all the way down to Safeway. At Safeway, we would get a loaf of bread for 99 cents, 2 packs of Carl Budden's Little Meats, and some mayonnaise packets, some mustard. And then we'd go to the beach. And we'd be there all day. And all we had was like these little thin sliced meat sandwiches. And we would literally know, like, each person, there's 3 or 4 of us, we would know, like, you only get 3 pieces of this meat and 3 pieces of this meat. And so we would, like, watch as you're making your sandwich. You better not take that extra meat. If I have to have a 2 meat pieces sandwich, someone's paying the price for that. So a couple of years later, we're at that same place, swimming at that little beach. They brought the sand in. They had the little dock,
Yep.
This lady lost her diamond ring. And they had all this, like her wedding ring, she lost it.
Oh, my gosh.
And they had all this milfoil in there.
Yeah.
Like, people would drown in this stuff. And it was probably 6 feet below the water is where that seaweed stuff would grow. Well, me and my buddy, she said they were going to have a reward for this ring. And we, like, now, just so you know, $3 is all we would ever have, right? There was never any sort of money. And so we spent, like, hours diving for this ring and just filling in the mud. And I found that shit. Came up out of the water, with the ring, brought up there. No damn reward.
You should have just been like,
she said she's going to give it to us. Like, she's like, oh, just tell me where you live. We'll bring it by. They didn't bring anything by. So if that lady's ever listening to this thing, I hope you lost that shit later. Seriously, man. But funny. I found that ring, dude. And, you know, a lot of people would have just like found it and just be like, no, never found it. You know, just kept it in their hand and swam off. But, you know, little kid promised them some money and didn't have any. You know, it's like, hey, I didn't know I had $1,000 in my hand, you know. It's
you just found a ring. Like, you know,
I had
just give me a pack of Skittles.
Yeah, anything would have been good. Take me to a snack bar.
Yeah. Dang.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time down there and fishing too, off next to the boat ramp.
We probably ran into each other and didn't even know it.
Well, we were the ones with our bikes upside down. You know, we had to put the bikes upside down so people couldn't run off with them quick. You know, so we had like a strategy.
Take them a quick second.
We would put them upside down. We put the other one across the other way and put the other one across. It made like a peace sign. You know, so all the forks were like twisted. It was crazy.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was crazy. But we did a lot of fishing there too, off the dock. We had a special spot. It was like, from the far right point of the dock, we would cast out about 1 o'clock, maybe 60 feet, with some rainbow sparkles in a 2-foot.
So you're talking about the swimming hole if you're like looking at the shack, right?
Mm-hmm. To the left of the shack.
It goes, yeah. So there's that swimming hole that's off to the left.
That's the one.
So we used to go like maybe 50 yards off to the right.
On the beach one.
No, so you remember they had those concrete slabs that like floated over the water.
Yeah.
We were on those.
Oh, gotcha.
And we were just hitting them. And then if you go way far right, there's like a little creek.
The creek? Yeah.
You can get them in there too.
Yeah.
And then you can go across the street.
Yeah, over in the Sprinkler Park.
Yep. And then there was like a little hole over there that you can fish too.
Yeah, I was always scared of those woods. Just because
there's dead bodies in there. No, later on there was found a dead body.
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of crazy.
I think we're like 14.
Yeah, man. They end up turning that into like a mountain bike park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that happened after they found the dead body. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
That really happened. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
it was after they found the body. They had it was probably like 6 or 7 months after that because I had it completely shut down. But there was already like little jumps and stuff back there, and then they built it out.
Yeah, it
was crazy.
Yeah, so I missed all those days of school fishing, and then now I turned into as a young adult. I moved to Puyallup, and never had done any salmon fishing or anything. I always done lake fishing because 10 miles is a long way as a youngster, but for a youngster to travel, there was no.
I mean, it's shoes or bicycle.
Yeah, so. It was a long way to go, and we moved to Puyallup, and then there was the Puyallup River right there with all these salmon and everything, and I had never experienced salmon fishing, and I had never even been to Sportco. My whole life growing up, I had never been to Sportco, had never been involved in any salmon fishing, and then when I found out that they had like 20-pound fish.
And you're just catching 1 pound trout.
Yeah, not even a pounder. Sometimes they're just little. You're like, oh, that's not bad size, right?
Fryers.
There. It was on like Donkey Kong, man. I was freaking on that. Like my buddy, he would work. My buddy Billy.
Yeah,
we used to do everything together, and he got a job. Well, he had to get a job because he had a baby, right? So he had all these different jobs. But he was the first one of us to have a child, but he had a child when he was like 17. Oh, so we were like 15 and 16, and he had a kid, and we were like, we ain't doing that. So he worked at Mankey Lumber in the Green Chain. And the Green Chain was like, I don't know if it's graveyard shift, but they get off at like 5 o'clock in the morning, 4:45 or something. So from the time he'd get off at 4:45, it took him 15 minutes to get to my house. So he'd get out of the mill, get to his truck. He'd have the fish bowls in his truck. And my parents' house, had this on my own entryway and everything. He would just come to my house and bang on the wall. At 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'd get up, oh shit. And I'd open the door and he'd be like, let's go fishing, dude. I'm like, I just got off work. And I'm like, yeah, I got to go to school in like 2 hours. He's like, so we'll fish for like an hour and 45 minutes. That's how you miss 95 days of school, right? So it didn't happen in high school. I was always there. But I would fish in the morning time before school just across the street. And it was like 100 yards to the river, and we would just go down there. We would salmon fish for like an hour, and then I would go home and go to school. And I did that like September, October, November. We used to be able to keep the chum salmon, like that chum picture I showed you there. That was caught in November. It was right before Thanksgiving on the Puyallup River, which you can't fish for chum anymore. Yeah, man. So after that, I just hit it so hard, dude. It was like everything I did was salmon. I knew the distance and how much fuel it took to get to each river on the west side of the mountains, pretty much. If we were trying to leave, I would be like, this river, it's an hour and 15 minutes. It's going to be 85 miles. We're going to have to go there. It's going to take this many. Gas is like $1.15. I need $15 in gas. Like, I would have it like figured out. Like, this is where we're going to go. This is how long it's going to take. And then we would go there and we would put the hammer on steelhead. Then I found out about steelhead. A whole nother passion, whole nother level of fishing dedication and on steelhead fishing. You know, they call it a fish of a million casts. I don't know if it actually took a million casts, but it was at one point in time, it was every single cast we were catching steelhead. One point in time, they had a 6 steelhead limit on the Cowlitz per day.
Oh, man.
You catch 6 steelhead per day. And there was a point where you could cast the pole and count to 3 and just set the hook. And there was a fish on it. I'm not shitting you. It was ridiculous. Those were some good times too. So I'm fully involved in fishing, man. Now I wish we still had those type of numbers that we did. The rivers, hard to pinpoint exactly management, what's going on with the rivers and the fish, but all levels of management, whether it's from the predators in the water to the amount of fish they're farming, to the amount of fish they're keeping in the ocean, to the amount of seals in the Columbia. You know, they're just, everything is against the salmon as a survival fish or a recreational food source. It's so down from the early 2000s that you hardly recognize it. You know, now you're like, oh, people are catching some fish, and you'll see like 2 or 3. There's one guy I want to fish with. If Harry Ramsey ever sees this or hears this video, I was going to look him up and send him a PM and be like, hey, dude, I don't want to fish with you, because he's the only person that I know that slays fish. And I'm like 99% sure he's retired and lives on the river.
That's a good life.
No, yeah. I mean, he's a freaking fish hammerer, dude. This guy is no joke.
Yeah, man. Maybe we should get that hooked up.
I'm tempted to send him a message, but I don't want to be a weirdo, you know. And he's like, yeah, come down to my house. We'll fish off the bank. And he's over there nailing the shit out of them. But, yeah, man, it's one of those things where at one point in time I had a river jet sled boat. I would go fish rivers and stuff. And there was a point in time where I was, for about a year and a half, where I deckhanded for a guide. I did that just for fishing trips and tips. So the deal was be at my house in Centralia at 4 a.m. and we'll go meet the clients. You're going to deckhand. You can fish all day. If you hook a fish, you hand it to the customer until customers get their limit, and then we can fish. So we just fished. It was just like fishing, and the goal was to get, you know, because a lot of times customers, they'll have like very limited experience in fishing or casting, and they just want to go catch fish and be on a boat and have an opportunity at reeling one in. But the nature of fishing on a boat is not that. Not that the person that has the pole in their hand has the greatest skill, but you're trying to increase the odds of those people getting the fish. And so really the guide does most of the work. You know, he's positioning the boat. It's a lot of work to maneuver and position the boat. And then, you know, directing people on where they should be casting and, you know, which angles. And it's crazy when 4 people cast off the same side of a boat in the current, you know, you're going downstream, because we do a lot of side drifting in those days. And all the lines would be going over and under each other. And you grab people's lines, like, yep. You're doing this thing, like, yep. Okay, everybody fish. Yeah. You just hold your poles and wait for a fish to take it off, you know. So I would fish. I fished, I don't know how many hundreds of days doing that. It's probably a couple hundred.
Dang.
Probably a couple hundred days, just, yeah. And the one thing I realized is those guides are tough suckers, dude. Like, it was brutally cold. You got
the wind blasting you, you got rain blasting you.
95% of the time, rain.
Yeah.
You know, and always 100% it's wind, because you're going upstream. Like, I've seen the guy I was working with, you know, we run rear tiller boats. So all the motors in the back, you stand up or you're sitting down and you're running the motor by a tiller. You twist the handle, it goes, it's an outboard tiller. So you have to maneuver the tiller to turn the boat. and you stand up, and I've been in a brutal rain where my back's there and I got my thing down, my hood's just cinched down. I got a little tiny hole like Kenny, Kenny on South Park. I'm looking out this little hole and he's just like, just going in the wind and just right in his face. He's like, give me my glasses. Gone, dude. We're just freaking bombing down the river.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude. It was wild. And then in 2005, I got my sled, and had that to 2012 or 13, maybe 14.
Yeah.
It was right around there. Yeah. And then, so then I really realized, like, it's a lot of work, especially if there's a hatch. Like all the freaking bugs, dude. Like one year I had them like in my eyelashes, like probably 15 at one point in time in my eyelashes. Cruising upriver, and you run to a big hatch, like cut down the motor. You're like, oh shit, no. They're in your eyes. You're like, oh my god, I can't see. You got bug guts on your eyelids. You're like, it's brutal, man. But tons of good times. I could go on for infinity about fishing. This year, I want to get the kids out more, do a lot more lake fishing now that they're old enough to river fish kind of independently. I can kind of direct them where I don't have to do every single thing for them. If they're going to fish, I'm like, hey, you're going to have to figure this out. You have to learn how to tie this thing up, and I'm going to show you a couple times, and I'm going to hook you up, and then you're going to go,
Yeah, man. Malachi, I know, is definitely the outdoorsy kid. Devin right now, he's just into the weight room and football. That's it. That's all he does. Oh, well, right now he's in track, but yeah, the kid's a gym rat. It's crazy, but he loves it, and he fishes every once in a while. But he's busier than I am, and I'm pretty dang busy. So yeah, man. But definitely gonna be fishing a lot more. But I grew up more on the lake. I didn't really start fishing the river until like recently.
I remember your first fish,
2012 or something like that.
Remember when you caught your first one and you reeled it in and it was a rock?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh, man. When was that? That was like 2012 or 2011 or something like that.
That's crazy.
It would have been my first fish on the Puyallup.
And it was bouncing around. I mean, it was.
Yeah, it's so stupid. But yeah, I was fishing the river, and the Puyallup River is milky. You can't really see into the water. So I cast out, think I have a fish, and the pole is just bouncing around, but it's this rock just bouncing around the bottom, and I'm pulling it in, and boom, I have this like
lava rock or something
on my hook, and it was like, what the heck?
You literally hooked it in one of the little holes on it.
Yeah, so my first fish out of the river was at the Nisqually River. Mm-hmm. That was like my first salmon, probably like 2011, 2012, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that's funny. Oh, the freaking Nisqually, dude. We had my old boss. We were catching a lot of kings down the Nisqually. And he's like, oh, when you guys going fishing again? We're like, oh, we're not going to go fish with our boss. This is going to be weird. He's like, I'll tell you what, Junior, I'll drive. You just tell me where to go, and I'll drive us there. I'll pay for the gas and everything, And I was like, well, you don't even have a pole. And he's like, well, and could I borrow one of your poles? I was like, well, I got a pole you could use, I think. So I let him use one of my poles, right? We're getting ready at the truck. He's got one of them truck boxes, and so all the poles are in the truck box. We get them out. And this sucker puts a pole up against the truck and just slams the box and snaps the tip off the pole.
Oh, man.
Before we got to the thing, I was like, yeah, dang. That was one of my first. It wasn't the poles that I valued very highly, but it was still one of those things where bad start. Just bad start, right?
Yeah, like great.
So I just basically cut it down to the next eyelet, and then like kind of took some toenail clippers and kind of worked it down. I was like, you're gonna have to fish that pole, man. It's like, we just got here. I know you're driving us, but I'm still fishing, so I have to call my mom, you call her, whatever. I didn't have a cell phone, but someone's coming to get me, or you're staying. So
that's funny.
Me, Billy, and him start heading down the water, and it's like the Puyallup. It's murky. There's a lot of silt and stuff, and you can't really see the bottom. So when you're getting that first step off, you're kind of like tiptoeing because you don't know if it's 6 feet deep or 6 inches deep.
Yeah, and the river changes all the time. So you could be fishing that same hole or whatever, and yeah, you can bloop.
Yeah. So I'm doing the tiptoe, and I've got my foot working. I'm like, okay, I got it in. Okay, I'm on some flat ground. I put my other foot down off the bank. I'm standing there, and I walk forward like 5 feet, and then Billy, he's to my right, maybe like 3 or 4 feet. And he goes and he does a little tiptoe thing, and he goes in and he gets on some ground, and he takes the next step up to his neck, like straight down in the water. He's like, ah! And I thought he fell into like this big hole, right? He stands up straight, and his feet had went underneath a branch, and he fell like straight forward onto his knees.
On his knees.
But it happened so smooth, it was like he just fell into a hole, right? And he had the waders on. His waders were filled with water. Anyhow, that was funny because he just fished the rest of the day with his waders filled up,
Well, it's no different, I guess. Like, whatever.
Yeah, once you're wearing Hodgmans, they all fill up, it doesn't matter. You start dry, end up wet, whatever. Yeah, it was funny. But that was a good trip. We ended up catching 3 or 4 fish that day. And that section is kind of tough because the tides work, and they affect the river height. So you have to fish like when it's low, but almost just after the high tide. So the water...
So you really have to time your day just right to make sure that you're in there when the fish are going to be running that river.
Yeah, because they move in and they'll move out. When the water's dropping, they start feeling more pressure on themselves. So when the water rises, the fish will swim in through the mouth of the river, and they'll just it's kind of really slow. It's not really... There's not a lot of current pressure. They just kind of mill around. They're not really direction, or they're not really oriented at that point. I'm sure they could tell which way's upstream, but nothing's really telling them fight this. They're just kind of going in, and it's kind of a lazy part of the day for them. They get in, there's no fight, and then as the water drops, the current speeds up.
And then they have their direction.
Then it's
because now they're fighting the water.
They have to
know
face forward,
exactly where they're pointing to go.
Yeah. So that's the point in time where you'll catch them. You'll be able to slot the river and section it off and be like, I need to cast here. And you'll catch your drift, and you're like, nope, reel it in. I'm going to do 2 feet in. And you'll just work those slots and find out like where those fish are.
That it's not really the depth of the water. It's the depth of the length of the river that you're like casting to.
Yeah, you'll cast like, far bank, 2 feet in, 2 feet in, 2 feet in, 2 feet in.
And then until you start nailing them. And then you're like, okay, now I need to cast here every single time. Boom.
Because that current, the current of the river will push a fish to the side.
Yeah.
Because they're not trying to fight the current the entire time.
They find, exactly. So they find their sweet spot, and then that's where they go. And usually
that's the lane.
Yeah, all the fish are in that lane. Who knows how, what that looks like. I mean, they could be...
And it could change. It could change from day to day, depending on if a stump comes in, or a rock gets moved, or something upstream affects the current. The water will move a little differently. And I've seen on clear water rivers where the fish will be on one bank, and they'll hit like a spot, and then they'll instantly go, and they'll just come to the other side, and they'll just swim up that side, then they'll switch back over. And I've seen fish come up and do it again. Another fish, same thing. Another fish, same thing. And so they're following the current. They seem like a little simple thing, but they have these lateral lines, and it tells them where to go, and they're very in tune with the current. So you're really working that water, trying to figure out where the fish are lying and what part of that current feels comfortable to them.
Yeah.
If they're in there.
That's like why I always say fishing is like hunting the water, right? So you have to figure out like what's going to work. Well, in the clear water ones, you can get some polarized glasses on and just kind of figure out where they're at. But if you're in any silty type of water where you can't see anything, you're trying different color lures. Mm-hmm. You're trying, starting at the far bank, moving in until you start really catching some fish. So it's, there's a tactic to fishing, to river fishing. You're not just casting out a line and hoping that you catch something. I mean, some people get lucky, but
I do that every time I cast. I hope I catch something, but it's not from lack of effort or lack of reasoning.
Yeah.
If you're just out there casting the same spot,
there's a technique to it. You're not just gonna cast to the same spot and be catching fish. I mean, sometimes it happens, but sometimes you really got to work it. You know, you're going to start way out far as you can freaking cast, and then start moving in.
Yeah, the river
and
fishing.
Sometimes that first cast, it's like, oh man, that's where they're at.
There's a lot of science behind it, a lot of experience it takes to become very good at it. You know, I mentioned Harry Ramsey earlier. You know, I don't know how the man does it. You know, I just see him online. I'm like, this dude's a genius. He's really figured it out. I probably forgot more about fishing than I know now. You know, so, but I used to be heavily involved just in like kitchen table conversations every freaking week. Like I'd go to my buddy's dad's house and I would just go there on Sunday morning after church, have coffee, and we would talk fishing. Then we would tie lures, then we'd talk fishing. Then I'd go home.
Well, weren't you in you were in Field and Stream or something like that, right?
I was in Field and Stream one time. Yeah. We can post a picture if they want. But you can.
Yeah, we'll have to find that.
Yeah. No, I have it. I'm not letting that go.
No. I'm saying I know it's somewhere It's somewhere here.
Yeah,
it's somewhere in here.
Well, the Field and Stream, it wasn't like a full spread centerfold of me fishing.
No, but still, you were in it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it was like a nice steelhead I'd caught, winter steelhead, and I even lied about the river I caught it on because I didn't want anybody to know.
I don't want anybody in my spot.
I told him the river. I told him a different river. I knew I told him a different river because of that river. There's no steelhead that time of year when I was there, so I would never tell them where I was at. You know, but they published it, and when my buddy called me up, my buddy's dad, the guy I'd always have coffee with and tie lures and stuff. He calls me up and he's like, "Hey, you got to come over this Sunday?" I was like, "Yep." He's like, "You son of a bitch!" He slides it across the table. I was like, "What's this?" And he had the page bookmarked. And he flips it over. He's like, "Tink." I was like, "Oh damn! I forgot I did that. That was like a random photo entry deal on this, fishing thing." And yeah, they put it in there, and there's a little story attached to it, and it's pretty interesting. That was fun. But I felt like I did something. I was like, "Yeah, I made a Field and Stream magazine." Ha ha. Nobody else I know did that. So
that's pretty cool, man.
It's a legit nationwide publication.
Yeah.
It's not. But we grew up. We're super fortunate and blessed to be in the region we're in, and the reason I say that is because we have so many. I was thinking about this earlier today, and maybe this is the same everywhere. Like when I was younger, I always would watch Bill Dance and Roland Martin on TV. And so my grandparents lived in Florida, and I went to Florida, and I was like, "Hey, can you take me fishing on Lake Okeechobee? I want to go to Roland Martin's marina. I'm going to meet Roland Martin." I was like 13 probably. I was like, "We're going to go fish in the marina. I'm going to meet Roland Martin. He's going to be at the marina." I just knew he was going to be there, right? So we go to Roland Martin's marina. He's not there.
Of course not.
But they had a world record bass in there, like on the wall. It was probably a replica, but I did fish Lake Okeechobee, and that lake is, there's like signs on the lake that says this town 50 miles this way, and this town
so
30 miles.
It's nowhere.
It's a big ass lake, dude. Like it has its own climate. I mean, it's a big sucker. Like if you see Florida from space, you can see the lake on Florida. Like it's a big lake.
Wait, is that the big one at the bottom of the?
Yeah.
At the bottom of the thing.
Yeah, that's it. Lake Okeechobee. It's giant.
I didn't. Well, I've been to Florida a handful of times, but I've never fished a lake out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, Okeechobee. We stick to the canals. There's like a big canal around it, and they had like a cypress tree moss invasion, or they were doing something with the cypress trees where they went around the chainsaws and they cut the ring around the bark to kill them off because some ecology reason why they had a reason why they did it, but the moss was still growing and hanging. It was really, really nostalgic for me because I had watched this lake on TV like a million times, and so I was like, I'm gonna meet them. I'm gonna be like this. These guys are. But in the South, I feel like, or anywhere in the United States, there's always a local guy. There's always a guy in every place you go that is the guy. Like you're going to go to him and you're going to be like, this guy really knows how to fish. And this guy's really an excellent archery shot. And this guy, he's a long range shooter. And this guy's really into this. And this guy, he's the backpacker king. And, I think everybody has that in their region where I feel like I feel like I'm special. I feel like I have more exposure to this type of thing. A lot of people in this area than most people do nationally because I don't know of another place, and maybe this just because this is the realm that I'm in, but we had, Rocky Jacobson from Rocky Mountain Elk Calls. I met him at the archery shop over here at an elk calling seminar. Joel Turner, he lives right here. Brody Turner, his son, I shot archery with this kid when he was just a little guy in overalls.
Diapers.
Sean
still.
Elza, he won world title in archery over in Hungary for the USA when he was a junior, in juniors,
Yeah, 14.
Bill Herzog, he was down at Sportco. He's with Amato Productions and writing in magazines all the time. These guys were writing in magazines all the time for the things that I was interested in. And I had instant access to these people, and there's more. I could go on, but we have a super collection.
Well, what is that? Western Extreme? The gentleman that's the main host for Western Extreme, tall guy.
Yeah. We met him at Sportco.
Yeah.
Or Sportsman's Warehouse.
Yeah. Here in
Puyallup.
In
Puyallup,
Jason Phelps.
Yeah, Jason Phelps. And they're
PL. That's like an hour away.
Yeah. But there's so many different people that have a national impact or I would say national. I don't know if it's worldwide impact, but probably to an extent. But we're in the same vicinity these people are, and we have access to them early. I've really enjoyed growing up here and just being able to talk to these people over the counter at the store. Like, hey, how's this? When I got my first elk call, Doug at Great Northwest, man, he used to have a place right on River Road. I bought my very first bow from him, and right across from the Volkswagen dealership now.
Oh, okay.
And so
it's like a tattoo shop and all that.
Yeah, he had that whole thing. He had the whole section.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was his first. That was like, I don't know if that's his first shot, but I bought a Hoyt MT Sport from him, brand new. I thought, man, I got this badass bow. It was like $400. I think it was my first big check I ever got as an adult. I had to get a new bow because all my old bows were just like
Frankensteins.
They literally were Frankensteins. They had my very first bow was a golden circle with Hoyt cams, and I don't even know. It was a good enough bow.
Flung arrows.
It had different limbs on it from a different bow. It was literally a different riser, different limbs, different cams, custom string. We had this string specially made for this bow because it's a screamer. Because they didn't have like fast bows. It was like the first fast bow was the Hoyt Raptor. And that was like everybody wanted that 300. I think it was 320 IBO. Everybody's like, oh shit, 320, maybe. But we didn't have arrow technology, and everything was like super Lincoln Log XX75 Game Getter 2 heavy, and we would straighten our arrows with like our knee. It was no. If you knew a guy that had an arrow tuner, you're like, oh, you push a little bar, push a little bar and straighten your arrow out a little bit. But that wasn't very common either. It was just like, it was crazy. So meeting Doug, being close there, having the ability to just go sit down in his shop and have him, here's how you use a cow call. Here's the sounds you make. It really kind of kicked in with me after meeting Rocky. I met Rocky, and he had an elk calling seminar. I bought all his tapes right there. Full of bull 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right there. I watched them for hours, like DVDs right there. You can grab one of those.
Yeah, this is what we would watch in elk camp.
Well, that's R&T.
That one's a different one.
But it's right there. It says full of bull. It's behind the case. Nope. Other side.
Which one? What?
It's right there. It says full of bull right there. It's a blue case.
Oh, that's under a bunch of stuff.
Okay, well,
I ain't getting that.
Anyhow. So I watched these DVDs and learned to call and do the stuff. And then Joel Turner, he won the World Calling Elk Championship. Now he has Shot IQ. And, it's just crazy the amount of people that we've had interactions with and been next to for hours and hours of our life. And I don't know if everybody has that same experience, being that maybe it's a regional thing and every region has their thing. But I don't know of any other place that you have this concentration of people with such a big impact.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
It's crazy to say that here in Washington that we do have accesses like that. And it's still going on today. There's seminars and, different things going on all the time. So, I mean, if this is something that you're thinking about doing or want to up your game, I would really look at trying to find those. I mean, they're all over, Facebook or Instagram. You can find some of these things that people are doing through YouTube. Yeah.
It's a lot easier to learn
There's a lot of
these days.
stuff out there.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff out there. And I mean, there's a ton of different online stuff that you could do. Elk 101. I couldn't even explain like how many fishing tutorials you could go through. I mean, you could spend millions of hours of your days and years watching whatever you want. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, let's end it on that.
Yeah. All right. Wait,
Yeah.
We're going to call it a night. So hopefully everybody, you liked, what you're listening to here on the podcast.
Yeah, we get some fishing in. Now you know little weird facts about me.
Yeah, and myself. Yeah, I started fishing when I was very, very little, and it was a lot of fun. Still is a lot of fun.
I got to tell you one more little interesting thing.
Go ahead, go for it.
This is kind of a joke at the same time.
Go.
So, 10th grade, I got moved to New Jersey. I moved to New Jersey.
This is for the 90 some days of missing
96
school. His mom was like, I ain't dealing with it.
I moved to New Jersey, and I was wrestling, and it was probably like 2 months in to wrestling season, and here comes the dean administrator or whatever to the school I went to, and he went and talked to the coach. Coach says, Sandana, pulls me over, and I'm talking to him. He's like, can't wrestle. I was like, what do you mean I can't wrestle? He's like, you missed 96 days of school last year? And I was like, what? I was like, it was that many days? I mean, there was a couple. Like, it didn't seem like 96. And so, he's like, you're welcome to practice with the team, do all this stuff, but you can't compete.
Dang.
Yeah, dude. From the decisions you made last year, I was like, oh, dadgummit. Yeah.
That sucks.
Learned my lesson. Yep.
Well, yeah, so everybody, we do have some ongoing codes. If you'd like to use them, they're going to be down in your description. But, we have them on Phelps, Ghost Scream, and the Crazy Elk Company. And those will be down in the description, so go ahead and scroll and find those if you want to shop there and get some discounts through us. And, everybody have a good night, and we'll catch you on the next one.
All right, good night.